What is up, everyone? I am Robert Mraz.
And I'm Fina Mraz.
And this is CV Hustle, the podcast dedicated to inspiring entrepreneurship here in our local Coachella Valley. And today we got a real special guest. We've got an up-and-comer entrepreneur that's not only running one company, he's also running two. He's also an award-winning entrepreneur. That's how we met this entrepreneur at an award ceremony for entrepreneurs. So this guy's an up-and-comer. He's a young buck in the game, but he's coming up. Today we've got Amos Greenwood from My Party Rental Guys and Pest Protection 360. Two businesses, man. Thanks for coming in, man.
Yeah.
We appreciate you coming in and speaking to us today.
Definitely. Thanks for the invite. It's awesome. Yeah, beautiful location. Really excited. Yeah. So I really
absolutely.
Appreciate it. Yeah. I really
All right,
appreciate
so
it.
let's delve in. I want to know about Amos.
The juicy stuff. The juicy stuff.
So did you grow up around here? Did you go to high school around here? Or?
So yes and no. I always tell everybody, they ask where I'm from. I say, I'm from everywhere. Like, I'm literally from everywhere. They say military brat. I say, no, I just grew up poor. So it was like the same thing, you know? So people thought we were in the military. I said, no, we just got kicked out of every place. But anyway, I went to, I'm from Alabama, Florida, Virginia, Mississippi. A little bit of everywhere.
Wow.
Yeah, so we moved around.
How'd you make it out to Cali then?
Yeah, moved around a lot. So I had my mom was a single mom majority of my life. And my stepdad actually worked security for, I think it was like a General Motors thing. And he got a promotion and he had an opportunity to potentially get a supervisor role. And so they said, it's going to be in Indio. And we're like, what's Indio? We don't know what that is, you know? And so we come out to Indio. Nonetheless, they were out here for about 6 months and left, and then I stayed, and so been here.
So did you go to high school here or not?
Everywhere again. So I went to Indio for a little bit, not even a year. I went like under a year to Indio. But I went to high school in Florida, in Alabama, so a little bit of everywhere. I went to, by my sophomore year, I went to 6 different high schools.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when they left, where'd you stay?
Yeah, so weird story. My mom passed away a few years ago, so she can't watch this and like, I can't believe you told me.
She can't verify.
Yeah, I can't believe you. So she passed away a while back. But yeah, so I grew up with a single mom, and and it was my mom was just without getting too, but she she had mental disability.
Sure.
She also was blind. So she had some handicaps, you can say. Long story short, we were out here with my stepdad. They split. She was out here on her own, and ended up getting with someone else. And he was a truck driver. And she calls me. I was 17 and still in high school. And she calls me and says, "Hey, I'm not coming back. You need to try to figure out a place to stay."
Wow.
And I said, I'm 17.
Yeah.
I'm 17. I don't even think I can find a place to
You
stay.
even graduated high school.
Yeah.
It was what do you? It's throw the baby in the swimming pool.
Yeah,
you gotta
she let me swim.
Sink or swim, man. Sink or swim.
She let me swim, and
But
so yeah.
Don't you think like that was part of like the grit? Oh shit, I gotta do something now, and you gotta kind of like hustle, right? And
Correct. Yeah.
out.
So a little bit more about my story. So when that happened, like I said, I was 17. I was still in high school. I throw it all out there, and I'll kind of backtrack a little bit, but this is the first time me kind of telling my story and actually being honest about the things that happened to me growing up. My wife's family, for instance, they still just know little bits and pieces of my story because I hid it for so long because I thought it was something to be embarrassed about, and it was just, I thought it was something to be embarrassed about. When I was at Indio, at that point, I had been held back already twice, because I never stayed consistent in a school. I was homeschooled in between there.
Yeah, that's hard.
So it was just a really kind of weird upbringing for me, I guess you could say, especially when it comes to education. So I was already held back twice at that point, and I was 17, still in school. I was pretty much a sophomore going on my junior year, and she gives me that phone call, and I'm like, you know what? I said, I'm dropping out. I'm not gonna finish. That's it. I can't go to school and work and figure stuff out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so to answer your question, I definitely think it's part of the grit. I had to, get a job, and I was blessed to be able to get a job at it was a resort out here in Indio. So I was blessed to find a job there. Lied to them and told them I definitely graduated high school.
Oh yeah.
I had 4.0 too.
I hope they don't check.
Yeah, that's what I was. I said, I definitely graduated. So lied to them and, just started the grind from there. I was blessed to find a landlord that gave me an opportunity. She saw something in me and I
Wow.
promised her, hey, I'll be able to pay, my bills. And so I was 17, moved to a little studio in Cathedral City. And that was all she wrote.
Started
And,
your journey.
Yeah, I just started my journey and started working.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I was thrown in the water.
That's quite a story, man. It's quite
Yeah.
a story. Quite a testimony to your work ethic and grit and just determination, right? It's all kind of boils down to that, right?
Yeah, now I see it as that. When you're in it, you're literally in the water just
You're
trying
like,
to swim.
uh-huh.
And you think it's normal. At a point I had 3 different jobs, and so I'm working, graveyards. I'm doing stuff during the day. I'm also doing a little part-time kind of security thing and, just multiple jobs, just trying to make ends meet because,
Sure.
Growing up with a parent with, disabilities as well as her being blind, it was just something, I grew up knowing how many bills we had to pay and what we had
All
to
that
pay,
good
how much
stuff.
we owed, when we're going to get kicked out of here,
my
how we're going to
gosh.
this,
God.
selling Pokemon cards and stuff just to try to,
You know
get
what?
some
I
food.
have somebody in my office right now that they just started a Pokemon business.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
It's
and
a business. I made some money.
She's like, oh
We
my
pay
god,
some bills with some Pokemon cards.
That's
Yeah.
no
That's amazing to
idea.
me.
Yeah.
Like, I know.
That's amazing to me.
Well, how
I pay
much
some
money have
bills.
we spent on Pokemon
That's true.
cards? Though?
When our kids
Yeah,
were
and then I've
young.
always been, I guess you say, a hustler of sorts. So I used to, mess with the kids. Like, when I was a kid, like, hey, let's battle. You know what I mean? Oh man, that's my card now. And so I
Battle
go
what?
sell it. Yeah, exactly.
They're cards. They're
Ammo.
cards.
Oh, battle cards.
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
it's like
I thought you
poke-
started boxing.
it's like
No.
poker with anime. That's what Pokemon.
Yeah,
is,
they're
right?
different levels and all this. So I used to battle the kids and I'd win and I, sweet talk. I'm like, oh man, just shoot me these 2 cards. And then I'd
Yeah.
go slang them and sell them somewhere and come home like, hey mom, I got $15, and she's like, all right, let's go get some food, so.
Little entrepreneur started
Yeah.
right there. So
Guess
then,
you could say that.
how did you end up with all that going on, working a ton of jobs and all of that? Like, how did this start becoming a thing? Like, tell me about that.
So that's an interesting kind of pivot for me. So, growing up, that happened. I had to find my own place to stay, kind of had
Sure.
to, figure things out. And during that same time, I met my wife. I met Brianna, and
Did you meet her at a job that you guys
I met
were
her
both
at that resort. Yeah, so she was a lifeguard.
She was a
And
lifeguard.
She was a
She looked
lifeguard.
looking all cute.
Yeah. She was she was
Hey.
a lifeguard, and I was I did a bunch of different jobs there. I was an attendant, working the front desk, and doing a few different things. So I met her there, and I originally thought I was going to end up joining the military or doing something like that because
Yeah.
growing up, we always heard, and I heard from, some family of mine, you'd hear the whispers, it's like they knew who I was and who my mom was. And, and they were just, they would always say, he's either going to be dead in prison or a drug addict or,
Yeah.
he's going to have to join the milmilitary or something.
Sure,
Right.
because
And
the military guy, normally wants to, shape you up.
yeah,
right?
apparently it'll whip
Yeah,
me into
yeah.
shape, so because I used to have to try to hustle, and so even throughout my schooling and stuff like that, I would I would be gone from school more times than I was actually at
Sure.
school. So I was a little knucklehead of sorts, but I had to grow up really fast because of what my mom was going through. I didn't have the opportunity to. I had to grow
Yeah,
up.
not really.
Sink or swim, man.
Yeah.
Sink
really
or swim.
childhood, like
Yeah.
a typical childhood. But
Yeah.
So where does the entrepreneurial spirit of like, hey, I think I can. So did you work for like what business came first? I know you have a couple businesses going
Correct.
on, which is amazing. Like that's it's hard enough to run one profitable business as opposed
Oh my
to
gosh.
2. At the same time. So where does that to kind of walk us through that journey of like, okay, did you start which business did you start first, and how did you kind of get the idea like maybe I can open up a business doing
For
this?
sure, yeah, definitely. So when I met my wife Brianna, she grew up completely different than I did. So it was totally different. When I tell you, I said her family doesn't know much of my story. It was for a reason. I step into an environment where, her dad he's a wealthy man. She grew up in a wealthy household.
Really?
And so it was just different. She graduated with like a 5.0 GPA.
Wow.
Never had a B
Wow.
in school.
So she's the brains of the operation.
Yeah, she's the brains,
And the
right?
beauty,
The beauty and the brains.
The beauty and the brains.
You're just the bulk.
Even though you're cute.
You're just the bulk, man. You're good at moving stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the muscle. And so walking into that household was, I remember having to think like, wow, I got to like step my game up, if I'm going to be around, these successful people, this kind of just different environment. And so nonetheless, I got together with her. Her dad is in the pest control industry, has been in the pest control industry for a long time, as well as he's an entrepreneur of sorts too. He has a ton of rental properties, and that's kind of his thing. So he's a real estate guru of sorts.
It's so funny? Like, the pest control business, they bring in money.
Oh yeah,
I can't believe it. Like,
hey, you're always gonna need pest control.
Our guy, we've been with him 20 years, and his wife has never worked.
Oh wow!
And they're always. I mean, it's awesome. I love it, but it's just like, man.
Yeah, so that's what surprised me. So when I first met her and walked in and met her dad, and I'm thinking like, dear Lord, I'd never been in a house this big, pool, and it was just so different for me.
Sure.
And I asked him, I said, what do you do? He says, I work in pest control. I work for Ecolab. And I said, oh, man, what do you really do? You don't do pest control.
Right.
I'm looking around like, I heard you got a bunch of houses.
Yeah, that's a front. That's a front for something, man.
What do you do? Let me in on it.
Right.
What are we doing? And nonetheless, in the pest control industry, so I was with her for about a year, give or take, and no, a little less than that for sure. And he got me into the pest control industry. So I started working for Ecolab for a little bit, and
so like, what is it? Is it just pest? Like you're just spraying stuff? I mean, like our guy kind of does it all. Like,
yeah. So we work on. At that point, I was a general pest control guy. I was just going around spraying commercial locations, right?
Yeah.
Treating for whatever it was that they had. Dealing with rodent situations.
I couldn't do it, man.
Yeah, it was kind of a different job, and I'm a real scaredy cat. My mom used to say that, scaredy cat. So I use that word a lot. I was a big scaredy cat, and got into the pest control industry, and just for me, it was just such an opportunity because seeing what he did with this kind of career path, my eyes just opened up where I'm like, wow, I can do something else. There's not just military or, doing something illegal.
So like what I'm hearing is he was a big mentor in your life.
Huge.
Right?
Yeah, huge. Yeah.
That's freaking awesome.
Huge mentor in my life. And, so getting in the pest control industry, I did that for, I was a technician for a short period of time before I started moving my way up through management. And, before I did that, one of the things I did, and this was kind of a secret, like low key thing was
Pokemon cards.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad, but to me, it was a big deal was, I was with my wife, and like I said, I had to step it up. So I remember telling her, I might join the military. I'm going to go take this military test or whatever. And it wasn't. I was going to take the GED exam. I was terrified though, right? I was terrified. I was like, I can't tell her I'm going to go do this.
Yeah,
like,
what if you
I told her I graduated
fail,
with
right?
like a 4.0. You know?
Wow.
Like, she don't know.
Wow.
You know? Yeah, hopefully she doesn't ask me any math questions or anything. Yeah. Hopefully I could get away with it. But I was always so...
Just tell you graduate from Indio, man. There's no expectation. I know. I'm a Raja. I can tell you that. There's no expectation when you come from Indio.
She was in love with your personality, not the brain.
Yeah,
right?
that's what it was.
That's what happened to us. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. He's a Raja, remember?
Right.
He's a Raja. So I lied to her and said I was going to go do some exam. Might do the military thing. I don't know yet. It's, I was really hyping it up. And that was the first time I actually sat down and, I was so disciplined with trying to, I had to reteach myself everything. I didn't know how to read. I didn't know how to write properly. I didn't know how to do my simple multiplication tables, things you learn in middle school, and so I had to sit there. I'm on YouTube and I'm, kind of hiding because I don't want her to know I'm, going over fractions and stuff. And she's like, she's a genius, literally a genius.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm, I'm really looking at these simple things, and it was part of the embarrassment. I told you guys when I first came in was, you know, my upbringing. I used to always think it was an embarrassment. It was something I had to hide.
Yeah.
And you know, throughout my short term so far in entrepreneurship and my life now, I realize it's part of my strength. It's part of my story.
Absolutely.
You know, and so
Yeah.
I don't want to hide it because there's other people who can benefit from
Yeah.
it. You
'Cause,
know,
I mean, to teach yourself that. I mean, like my dad didn't read. Like both of my parents didn't
Okay.
even graduate high school, right? And so, like my dad would have to call me and say, "I got something in the mail. I don't know what it is, and or what does this bill mean, or why." Like, so totally have respect
Yeah.
for you for that, and like teaching yourself that's
it was hard
by yourself. Like that's even
it was
you
hard.
know?
When I say I couldn't read, I don't even mean, you know, I had to sound it out. I had to. What I mean is I could read really slowly. I
Yeah.
couldn't comprehend any of it, like any of it. I'd have to reread it 20
20
times,
times.
you know. And later in life, finding out I had ADHD, I had
Same here,
all
bro.
these,
I
you
love
know.
it.
So I'm like,
It's a superpower.
yeah, it is.
Sometimes.
I'm like, yeah,
Sometimes.
it is.
Sometimes it's a superpower.
It's your kryptonite too,
yeah,
right?
there's also a downside.
Yeah.
But we'll
I say
we'll keep it light today.
I say it's my kryptonite and my downside.
Uh-huh.
So, you know, I couldn't comprehend these things, and I had to just reread it. I watched a story on TV, and I remember at the time it was like, I think it was about Dr. Ben Carson, and it was I think it was a movie where like Cuba Gooding Jr. was playing him, and he was in the library just rereading things, and it really inspired me, you know, to where I was like, I gotta just keep rereading this until I understand it. And so I remember that was my one thing that I decided to do, because growing up I didn't remember one test that I ever passed, not one, you know, so not one test that I ever passed. And so I'm going into this just like, I don't know if I can do this. And I go, and nonetheless I passed with flying colors, and you know, I was able to teach myself some of these things.
Wow.
But
Dude, she was like the perfect tutor, though.
yeah, I know, right? I couldn't ask her, what's 2 + 2? Yeah, what is it? Carry the what? Yeah, it was such an embarrassing thing for me, because, you know, when I say she's a genius, she's a genius. You know, straight A's. You know, I'm looking at her transcript. She didn't have 1 B. It's all
Wow.
A's.
Wow.
You know, it was crazy. You know, and yeah, so that was a big part of my upbringing. And so after I got that, you know,
Did you tell her about the GED afterwards?
Years
Or
later.
She's all,
Years
she's
later,
just-
after you're
she's
already
just
married,
finding
like,
out.
oh, you can't
She's
leave now.
Oh my
years
gosh.
later, years
Really?
later, I said, I got something
Wow.
to tell you.
Oh,
Yeah.
what isn't that like an exhilarating moment, and then not be able to share? It had to have been like
Yeah,
hard.
I was just screaming and excited in my then car, you know, and so
yeah.
I was just excited, and I was
Oh,
screaming,
yeah.
and you know, it was an exciting point for me, but it was more or less because I didn't have to fake it. I could kind of
Yeah.
say these things, say it a little differently,
Right.
but still mean what I'm saying, and
Yeah.
actually have done it, you know, and accomplished something. So when I did that, you know, I start, you know, really just diving deep into the pest control industry. During that, I used to watch videos all day and all night about Toastmasters and about speaking, and about,
yeah.
you know, all
That
these different
helps
things.
so
and
many people. It really
I had
does.
a slight accent, like Alabama accent. I had a slight accent. I had all these different, you know, so I got rid of it. I just was religious about learning how to do public speaking and how to be able to, you know, articulate what I'm trying to get,
Sure,
you know,
across.
through, because I figured, especially in that industry, I could be darn good at sales, right? So I always knew that was my gift of sorts.
So then, how did it go from like he was working at whatever, I forgot the name already.
Ecolab.
Ecolab, and then to you starting your business, and did he follow along with you this time?
So no, yes and no. So I start working for Ecolab. I start
Up to
quickly making my
management?
way through
Yeah.
the ranks. Not just there. I start working for a different company. Shortly after that, I followed my wife to school at San Luis. She was in San Luis Obispo.
Aw,
She went to
dude.
Cal Poly
If-
out there, and so
That's an awesome
I
place to
followed
be.
her to that, you know, and out there working my 3 jobs, doing my thing, and then got in with Ecolab, and was still working multiple jobs at that point too, just because it was like, you know, how are we going to survive out here? And we had to,
It's expensive
you know,
out there.
oh
too.
yeah, we had to
pretty penny, huh?
really figure it out, and so yeah, we had to really figure it out, and so I started making my way through the ranks there. She was almost finishing school at that point. I decided to come back sooner, start working for a different company, and then I start working for Terminex. You know, I was a manager with them. Then
Are
I
they
started
still
making my way
around?
through the ring. Oh yeah, yeah.
Are they?
Yeah.
I haven't. You know what? It just like I probably see them passing by.
They're a big national brand, right?
Yeah, they're huge. So
Yeah.
they just merged and got bought by Rent-A-Kill. So now they're the largest pest control company in the world,
Wow.
by almost double.
So then you started working for them, and then you just said, I'm out of here. Or you started like servicing clients and like getting to know those clients, and then.
So no, all I did was manage with them. So I've been in management ever since I was with them.
Okay.
So I just managed with them. I was one of the youngest general managers. I was one of the youngest, guys who work on the divisional side. I did some service. It was a different service job on the divisional side where I managed multiple locations and did some things like that. And so I start really making my name there and making a name for myself in the industry. And for a long time, I thought I was going to be a corporate guy. I was always going to stay there because I was so blessed to be able to make the kind of money I was making. I grew up and used to just think like, man, if I could make this, I'd be a billionaire. You don't know that.
Yeah.
I'd be a billionaire. You start doing it and you're like, wow.
Start doing the math, right, in your head. And you're like, 10 years, I'll be doing this, right?
Exactly.
So when was the reflection point, though? Because all of us entrepreneurs that have like taken that leap of faith and bet on ourselves, there had to have been some point where you were like, all right, on that fence, like, am I just going to stay in this cushy job? Because that's kind of what we experienced. We're like, okay, we're going to stay here and be comfortable, or are we going to take that leap and be uncomfortable and then really like try and bet on ourselves and go out on our own and enrich ourselves? So like, where was that inflection point for you? It sounds like you were working your way up, doing the corporate thing.
Yeah.
Is there a moment that you can kind of remember and point to?
There is. It's funny you say that because I didn't realize I had that until you just said what you said right now. My reflection point was, so when I told you I wasn't a numbers guy, and then I turned into a numbers guy where I was running, I'm running a multi-million-dollar branch. At one point I was managing, multiple multi-million branches, so many different things. And so I'd be looking at these spreadsheets and looking at these P&Ls and, and I'm looking at the kind of money that I'm handling on a regular basis where it is all, I'm the leader, right? And I mean, everybody, I'm the leader. I had multiple managers reporting to me. We had, 50 plus employees that reported directly to the managers who reported to me. And being so young in that kind of position, it was such a win for me where I couldn't imagine not doing it at a point. Sure. And then when I'm sitting down there and I'm looking at these P&Ls, and I remember I was in my office one day and I'm looking at this and I'm looking at, I crush year over year by, I beat our profit by over $1 million at one point, right? And I'm sitting there like, wow, we did it, and they're like, great job.
Yeah.
Here's a little bonus. You know what I mean?
Right.
Here's your $200 gift card from Starbucks.
you're like, here's your bonus. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can, it's like, it was just such a
wake-up
clarifying
call
moment for me. Yeah,
absolutely.
It was like, this is the kind of money we're making, and especially when you're directly the source to bring those, certain decisions I had to make, not only with hiring certain managers and putting certain people in places and starting new services and programs and different things that we do internally,
right.
Produce this, 7-figure increase over what we projected. And so it was just such a, like I almost had that gut, you just have that feeling like you got punched in the gut where you're just like, wow, and it almost seems unreal when you're looking at these numbers on paper and you're looking at months with hundreds of thousands of dollars and you're just comparing it. And then you put it on, you kind of absorb all of it and you realize how much money you're dealing with. So to be quite honest with you, at that point, that's when I realized I can't just sit here and
enrich this corporation.
Yeah.
So what was the first step to starting that business, then your own business?
Question. Yeah, so good question. So amongst all the agreements and NDAs and stuff I signed with the brand, obviously.
That's true. Big corporation going to make you non-compete, all that, which are not legal, by the way, but
yeah, I knew that.
In California, but they still make you sign
them. They can still sue you.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
So amongst that, I realized, I said, well, I'm not ready to do this yet. My wife finished school. She became an engineer. She started doing her thing. I was, in my area, I was a top manager. I was crushing it year over year. We were killing it. We were in the top 10 branches year over year. Everything I touched, in a sense, just, I don't want to say turned to gold, but turned to gold, And so I realized I had a certain skill set, and why not utilize that skill set? So to answer your question, what I did was I said, well, I can't start a pest control company because I work for a pest control company.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, they'll go after me. I can't start this. And so it was around the time we were it was our baby shower. It was my daughter's baby shower, Layla. Her baby shower at the time, and I remember calling around trying to get quotes for a tent. And it was last minute, it was gonna rain, and so I'm panicking, like, oh, I need to find somebody. And the companies that we have locally just, pardon my French, but treated me like crap, right? I'm on the phone and I said, hey, I need a tent tomorrow. Like, and they all but giggled at me, like, what, tomorrow? And I'm like,
Right.
yeah, I need a tent tomorrow. Like, this is not,
Is that unreasonable?
Yeah, they all but giggled at me. One company did giggle at me. It was only like 2 of the big ones out here. And I said, yeah, I need a tent. And they said, okay, we'll see what we can do. And they sent me over some quotes, and it was like $6-7 grand or something like that. And I said,
you know what that's called?
it's bad.
The pain in the ass fee.
Yeah.
PETA fee.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's bad.
They don't even want you to accept it at that price.
Yeah,
It's
they're
like they're jacking up so
It's
high.
one of those, you give a customer a price, you're like, I don't want to deal with them. But
Yeah,
if we do,
exactly.
it's going to be
It's
worth
gonna
it.
be worth
You know what I mean?
That's absolutely.
Especially because I was difficult on the phone after, them telling me it was like all but impossible.
So did you get the tent?
No. I went to like Tractor Supply or something, and I was like, we building this today. You know what I mean? We're building this, and so nonetheless, it was sometime later. I love having cigars. I love smoking cigars.
Oh.
Smoking cigars with some buddies, and like I say, she works for the city, and so I'm having a conversation, and I heard how much the city spends per year on just rental equipment. And it clicked to me in my head, and I'm like, wow.
2 and 2 together.
Yeah,
2 and 2.
2 and 2, right?
Yeah,
2
I like
plus 2. Now I know it's 3. No, it's 4. So yeah, I put 2 and 2 together, and nonetheless, it just clicked to me. I always try to look for gaps. I did that in the pest control industry where we did it within the industry, right? So I always try to look for gaps in our community, and nonetheless, that was a gap where I realized there's only, there's 2 big corporate hedge fund owned companies out here that are just they're hedge
Eating
fund
up,
owned.
yeah, they're eating up all
And
the business.
they run the market to where they can. You're not going to
Charge
price yourself
whatever.
out of the market because it's just them too, right?
It's like the DMV.
Oh my God!
Bobby always
yes.
like,
don't even bring that up.
Competitor, so.
Government ain't got no competition, so there's no customer service therefore.
Yeah, you're speaking my language. I've been there the last week, almost every day.
So then you felt like because your wife also worked in that industry, like if you started up your own deal,
Well, you kind of had
like
an idea,
like a
right?
shoe-in, right?
Yes and no. So still to this day, I'm barely getting those contracts now.
Oh,
actually,
wow.
and we're 3 years in now. So I'm still barely teeter-tottering my way in there. Because one thing I didn't want, as crazy as it sounds, because I'm a sales guy, but I didn't want a handout, right? I wanted to prove that I can do this.
Yeah.
And to the caliber of events that they do, it was like, they're very large scale events. They're not
You don't want to bite off more than you can chew either.
Correct.
Like that's how I think we went about our businesses too. So
Slow growth is sometimes better than too much, too fast.
So you said, all right, I'm gonna start our business and I'm gonna name it My Party Guys Rental.
Yeah, My Party Rental Guys, huh?
Oh,
Yeah.
See the dyslexia.
Yeah. No, everybody calls us the party guys. The party guys. Yeah, we're the party guys. And so
It's catchy. It's catchy.
Yeah, it's catchy. And so nonetheless, after that conversation, 90 days later, I had my own brand. I decided I'm just going full throttle and jumping right into it.
So did you not have any experience in that industry? You just saw the need? Wow, you got some cojones, man. I just
saw the need, and once again, I told you how to do the whole YouTube thing. YouTube was my education, right? And so I just Googled.
Wow, you learned this on YouTube, how to run a party rental company. See, there you go, people out there. If you want to start a business, there is information to start. I mean, we got living proof right here.
100%.
That's crazy, man. That's
Super Bowl tomorrow. You're like the quarterback who threw the Hail Mary.
Yeah, I threw the Hail Mary. Oh my God, the ball's here.
I don't think because you can sell, right? Because you already knew you could sell.
Correct.
So you just had to learn the ins and outs of the business, right?
Correct. And so I always joke and say my mentors are all these different guys online. They just don't know they're my mentor yet.
Right.
I'm like, you're my mentor. You just don't know it. I watch all your videos.
Right? Just DM them, say, hey,
I watch your videos.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to know who was your first client. You know what I mean? Like, who gave you that opportunity?
No, that's a good question. So we had all these little small. My first client actually was my wife's mom. They ordered it was like I need 20 chairs for this, right? Or
Yeah,
whatever.
right.
Yeah.
And
That's how
she
it
was doing it
starts.
through, I coach AYSO. So I was a soccer
Oh,
coach
okay.
at that point. And so it was through one of, they needed it for one of their things. So she's like, no, let me pay you because it's from them. And so she was my first client. So that was awesome.
I
Thank you,
thought-
Gloria. Yeah, she's my first client. But my first large client actually was the Alzheimer's Walk. So we do
an
the
event.
annual Alzheimer's Walk. I got that my first year in business, first couple months in business.
How did that connection come through?
Yeah, so I had a consultant. I had a business consultant that I start working with through
Was
through
it
the
Score?
No, it was through
Okay,
it was
okay.
through an SBA thing, right?
Oh,
So like
yeah, okay.
not through it's through a small business, program
yeah.
kind of thing where they do it for free, right? And so you
Mm-hmm.
can just sign up, and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna sign up.
Heck yeah.
And so I had a consultant that I would work with, and she used to tell me how powerful networking is. And I'm thinking like, nah, I just need to get in front of customers. That's it. I'm going to sell. And then I realized who my customer base is. It's everybody.
Everybody.
There's literally no one that's not going to
true.
need my services for something.
Yeah.
And so I just start going real heavy on networking. I joined almost every chamber there is to join, and start going to all their events. And I met someone from Visit Greater Palm Springs. Her name was Susan. And she just absolutely loved me and what we were doing and the brand. And so she sent a referral out to Janie, who runs the Alzheimer's Walk and does a bunch of other stuff for them, and called me up and said, hey, we need 20 tents. And I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, yeah, we can do it.
Yeah,
We can
you
do
always
it.
say yes
We're
when
the
you
biggest
first
and
start.
baddest in the game.
You'll figure it out after you hang up the phone.
Yeah, we can do it. Yeah, we can do it.
YouTube. Where do I get 20 tents?
Right?
Yeah, we can do it.
You better
And
be
so
calling them vendors real quick.
I scattered, and one of the cool things is, like I said, I try to do everything in-house. And so, to be quite honest with you, that was the first Hail Mary I threw, which was investing in a ton of equipment.
I was going to say, because
Yeah.
you obviously, it takes a lot of space.
Correct.
to
And a
hold
lot of
all
capital.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to have so
Money up
when did you
front.
get to the point where was it the Alzheimer's event was where you said, okay, I can quit my job and do this full time? Did you
No.
just go in full time from
I
the
stayed-
beginning or?
No, so I actually had my brand for a little over a year before I decided to go on my own. Almost 2 years, actually.
Okay. So it was like a side hustle that turned into your
Yes and no. So I always say I kind of jump too quickly into things. It's that ADHD.
It's the
He's like, I know what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
impulsiveness. I
Hey.
can't help it.
It's that just like I dive so deep into it.
Right.
So when I tell you, I dove straight into it. So I not only bought a ton of equipment, I hired a full-time employee, someone to run my brand for me. Right.
While
And
you're
kinda-
working at another.
while I'm working at another.
Wow. So you had an employee before you were even
Yeah.
full time in the business. That is.
Yeah, I had a couple.
I'm telling you,
yeah,
man, that's some
I had a couple.
cojones right there, man. You're like,
I had a
we're
couple.
doing this.
I was over 6 figures in, and a couple employees in, and invested in everything from the warehouse vehicles, big box truck, all sorts of stuff that I just. And at the time, once again, I didn't know how to do it the right way. Even though I'm used to running a corporate brand, I'm also used to, signing off and doing big purchases. And I'm thinking, that's how we got to do it. I'm not easing into it. I'm
Right.
just going right in. So I'm buying my truck cash.
Oh,
I'm doing everything.
gosh.
Wow, man.
I'm just going in and throwing cash around. I've been blessed to be able to have a position where I was making good money, and I was a killer.
And you're stacking it,
salesperson.
obviously. You had the capital to do it,
we
man.
got those little bonuses that they would throw over here and there, for finishing as high as we did. But we had those little bonuses and things like that. So stacking it up, and I just kind of dove straight into it.
Okay,
Wow.
I'm confused. So you were doing pest control, and then you were doing this as a side hustle. Who is giving you the bonuses now?
Yeah, right.
The pest control company.
Yeah, pest control.
He's still
Oh,
doing.
okay.
He's still doing the
Terminex
management,
was.
right?
Oh,
So I still
Terminex,
worked for
okay.
Terminex at the time.
Got
So
it.
I was a manager with Terminex. So I was running my own branch at that point. I actually jumped
okay.
back down from the division, and then I was running my own branch because I had my daughter at that point too. So I
Didn't wanna move around too
travel no
much,
more.
yeah.
I wanted to stay in one location.
Sure.
So nonetheless, so I just dove straight into it and just start doing my thing.
So you mentioned the SBA. We love the SBA. They have helped us. I
Yeah.
mean,
Tremendously, right.
And so where you said I need a warehouse, right? So where do you still have that same warehouse today?
No, so we grew pretty quick. So I'm a numbers guy, so we've grown 150% year over year.
Wow, 150%.
150%.
That's
the last 3 years.
That's pretty.
Yeah,
That's pretty
yeah.
spectacular.
Well, we can do it.
Those are good.
That's
Those are good numbers, man.
Yeah, we've been absolutely blessed to be able to do that. In my first year, we did absolutely amazing. which I was surprised. But one thing you're always looking at, especially starting your own thing and throwing all this into it, I'm like pushing out all this money. I'm like, we did so great. And then you look at what you spent.
Oh, it's
like,
not
oh
what.
my God.
Yeah, it's not what you bring in, right?
Whoa.
It's not what you bring in. It's what you. It's what you keep.
Exactly.
It's not what you bring
We
in.
killed it.
Yeah.
We made all these sales, and then we look at
The bottom line.
looking at my balance sheet and stuff. I'm like, oh my God. Whoa,
Yeah.
throw this one away. I don't want to see this one. So that's what kind of did it. And so I decided to invest in it. And so my first warehouse was my garage, just like everybody.
There you go.
Just like
So it was my
everybody.
garage. And then I got a huge storage, like RV storage unit, you know, a pretty big one. And then I got into my current warehouse, which is in Cathedral City. It's a, you know, it's a pretty nice sized warehouse. It's a full legit warehouse.
How big is it?
I think it's, gosh, square footage wise.
30,000 square feet.
No, right?
Wow.
You're like
I mean-
100,000. I don't know how large it is actually. Yeah, I'd have to look at that, but it's a pretty decent
It's a
warehouse.
pretty
We can
decent.
now fit, you know, 6 to 8 RVs in there
Oh my
now.
God.
Yeah, so we can fit a ton, and
Do you have to buy racks?
we do.
Dude,
Yeah.
We had to buy rack. I mean, I can't believe how much money they cost. And then to have those guys, I paid somebody to
Come in
install
and
them.
install 'em.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
that's a good business to get
Yeah.
into.
Then you don't
Installing
realize
racks.
you need all the space in the middle clear because
Yeah.
you
You
need to
gotta
be able to
remember, yeah.
remove those pallets and do this and do that. So now we're expanding and getting into the other side of the warehouse. But even to backtrack a little bit, so I was with Terminex and decided to do my own thing. And to be quite honest with you, it was the best thing I could have done because I was able to. I always told myself it was the way I could test it to see if I could truly be an entrepreneur, right? While I'm still working.
Yeah.
And so luckily I was a GM. I'd work half the week at home, work the other half of the week in the office. And in the office, I stayed in the office on my
Yeah.
computer. So I'm, you know, I'm in the office. You know, so I was blessed to be able to have that position to do that. And then during that same period of time, I told you, my wife's dad, who I would definitely say is my mentor,
Sure.
since I was, and I joke and even say her little brother is one of my other mentors. He
That's
taught me how to
awesome.
do my own repairs, and he owns his own air conditioning company, so he was able to kind of show me, hey, this is how you deal with electricity. This, okay, I don't put this one here. Yeah, I don't put this one here. So during that time, while even right before I started my own business. I was able to invest in some rental properties and things like that. So I was
Nice.
able to kind of tuck some properties under my belt. And it was nice because my mom was still alive at that point. And so it was really cool to be able to see me succeed.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
man.
we didn't even know what purchasing a house was like growing up. I didn't know it was a thing. I know
Dude,
it
that's
sounds
what
crazy.
I tell him. Like, I grew up in apartments my whole life. You know what I mean? So it's like, I didn't, you know, I wanted my kids. I'm sure you want your daughter Layla to do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Like to see a whole completely different way of life. And I think that's what's kind of cool is like you grow up with one parent and then you can turn that around and parent your child differently.
Yes,
So.
100%. And so I didn't grow up with my dad in my life, and I also joke and say my dad's one of my number one mentors. Also, he showed me what not to do.
Oh,
Right,
absolutely.
so he showed me what not to do when
Yeah.
raising kids, and you know how I treat my daughter now is a direct correlation with how he didn't treat me.
Yeah.
You know, and so it really did help me out, and so being able to have my mom see me grow up, and you know she's like, you just bought another house, and you know it was so awesome to see that. And she eventually went completely blind. I've always taken care of her, so to backtrack years before when she told me, hey, you got to find your own place, less than a year she ended up moving back, and she moved in with me because it didn't work out.
In the
right?
studio?
In the studio.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh.
And then she got her own little studio across from me, and so she was there for some time. And ever since then, like I said, I start purchasing properties and stuff. So she lived in my casitas. I bought a duplex.
So smart.
Lived in the front. She lived in the back.
Duplex.
Yeah. Yeah. I love duplexes.
Well, you know what? I just got my real estate license
Okay,
last year
yeah.
because I told him
Congrats.
we're gonna be buying and selling until we
Yeah.
die,
Mhm.
and he wants to sell one of our properties, and I was like, only if I can have a fourplex.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So-
That's a good condition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See?
Duplexes are nice. I love the one thing her dad taught me was a few different things. I love like the bird technique. I love that passive income. A few different things,
Absolutely,
right? So I
man.
bought a fixer upper in the city of Coachella where my wife works. We love supporting local. We don't just preach it in all my brands, but we actually live by it, right? So
Yeah.
we lived in Coachella, the city she worked in, and bought a property out there, and it was a fixer upper. Had no idea about the whole equity in this, and I'm watching all these videos online, learning about it, and so purchase a property out there. Her dad's like, this is gonna be a good one, and I'm like, I don't know, let's do it. You know what you're doing. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
So I delve right into it and start doing my own repairs. I'm on the roof on my phone watching YouTube how to replace a roof.
Gosh.
I'm replacing everything from the plywood. I learned how to do a roof from YouTube.
Do you have your own YouTube channel?
I do, but I don't post any. It's just a business YouTube channel. I don't post anything on there. But I want to start one day. But
Yeah.
As much as I watch it,
just follow the journey, huh? From business to business.
Correct.
It seems like when you have time for your family, you got 3 different businesses you're running.
Yeah, no.
It's a lot.
It's an ADHD thing that I tell you about. That's definitely my superpower. So I'm able to
juggle a
balance,
ton of things,
to where I'm able to be with my daughter. I'm able to, still spend time with the family and do the things that I need to do. And then I'm up at 1, 2 a.m. on my computer doing stuff while everybody's sleeping.
I need my sleep, though.
And I don't. I need a few hours and I'm up.
Really?
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Nice.
I joke and say, life's too short to waste it sleeping.
Wow.
So I'm like, I need to sleep.
I don't know, man.
He said, I need to sleep.
I need to sleep.
I always say, life's too short to be sleeping.
My brain is going to be backfiring on me.
Yeah.
So did the ADHD lead you to start the other business? And I'm kind of assuming that since it was already like a family business, the Pest Protect 360 was something that kind of you were already thinking about while you were running this one?
Correct. I was even in my head planning out things, right? And just how I'm going to do it. When I found out my first business can be and was being successful, it really helped me kind of put that guard down a little bit, to be quite honest with you.
Well, it gives you confidence, right? Like, okay, I do know what I'm doing. It's right in front of your eyes that you're seeing your baby grow, and like, okay, I can do this. So that's awesome.
Exactly what happened, and but it still wasn't easy. It still wasn't easy to branch off from that, because when I tell you, the way I grew up was just such a I didn't even know what it was like to, we didn't own a car. We had bus passes. You know what I mean? So we just didn't know what that was like. So when I was in a position to be able to do anything and everything I wanted to do, in my mind, I'm rich, and I was like, I made it. I'm doing it. So to step out of that and get uncomfortable and bet on myself was really, really scary to do. Really scary to do, even with my business that was doing what it was doing. But one thing I always told myself is, if my business is doing this successful with 25% of my time, imagine how successful I could be with 100% of my time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I tried to do the math, the 2 + 2.
Yeah.
I was still it equals 3. I was still there. Like, does this add up?
Now we're at 3.5.
Yeah. I was like, does this add up? And so I was doing the math, and I said, if I dedicate my time into my own brand, I'm tired of making, hedge funds and corporate conglomerates and all this even wealthier. Yeah. And they barely know who we are. We're the ones at the bottom making them all wealthy, making them their money, dealing with the people, dealing with the managers, dealing with all the issues. And,
oh my God.
And we're the ones doing it. I said,
always issues, right?
Why not do it for myself? Yeah. And so doing that was really scary to pivot. And, luckily I was able to kind of branch off of that. And when I decided to start Pest Protect 360, it was not easy. I had those like coming to Jesus moments where I'm sitting there just like, wow, should I do this? Should I do this? This is gonna be a
but you
mistake.
probably had like a little nest egg, right? Because it's always like, okay, I have a little money. I can go ahead and put some money into this new business too.
Yes, I did. There was never, not to sound any kind of way, but there was never a lack of funds, right? That wasn't the issue. In the second half of my life,
it was more
that was never
like
the issue. It was more of
taking the risk and taking the jump.
Correct, because we also live a certain lifestyle. You know how it goes. I even joke, and I was telling someone just the other day, I said, I felt like I had more money when I was working 3 jobs. I had a truck, I had my motorcycle.
Because your expenses were low, man. You ain't got no employees to pay.
I was doing it big, and so now it's like our lifestyle is just such to where when you look at how much money you push out, you're like, wow, like, yeah, you have this huge nest egg that feels like it's a big nest egg. But when you look at how much money you push out, you're like, wow, okay, we can survive for a few years or whatever it may be. But one thing I always, kind of relied on is that, you have to get state licensing for pest control. I got all my licensing as well as it's kind of like what they call contractors call their contractor license. Sure. I got my operator's licenses, so I have all of mine. So I had these things that I can kind of, hold as security. And those were huge accomplishments for me because, like I told you, growing up and with school and all that,
it's hard to read stuff and
it was hard.
Yeah.
And so to be able to get these licenses that only a handful of us in the company had, literally only a few of us had this license was something that I can kind of keep as security, in case I need to go back out and I'm like, oh my God, this failed. I need to go get another job somewhere.
As an entrepreneur, you're always that's always in the back of your mind. It's like, oh my God, but it kind of keeps that fire going, right? Keeps shoveling that.
got
coal,
to
keep shoveling it.
Gotta have that fire under your ass. So when did you go out on when did you start officially your pest control? Your Pest Protect 360
it was about
company.
A year ago, not even a full year now.
Okay.
It was about a year ago. I've had My Party Rental Guys for 3 years now. We started in 2022, and so I've had that for 3 years now. Now this one, we started in 24, but in the beginning.
I want to know some goodies about the party rental business.
Yeah.
Are there any crazy times any crazy clients that you know?
Every
day. You need any P. Diddy parties?
No, every day. Yeah. Yeah, you'd be surprised. Yeah, my guys always call me. They're like, hey, boss, we're going to need to wash this twice. I said, wash what twice? I said, it was crazy. We delivered pipe and drape, and it was just to cover off a little room. Yeah, so you'd be surprised the stuff we were
I'm sure. You got to sign a non-disclosure.
Yeah, bachelorette parties and this, and you're like, you're the party guys. And we're like,
we're not here for that.
Okay, I have another question.
Yeah. Because
I like to ask questions. So when you and I talked about this, or should we bring up the Firebirds thing first?
You can, yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, okay, so just backstory, how we kind of ran into you, got your story again, is we got, FINA's company got an award from First Bank as like an entrepreneur small business of the year. And you were also involved in that. Your companies were also honored at that Firebirds event. So that was kind of cool.
What was it was for being one of the top 10?
Small businesses in the Valley.
It was a good business award. So it was top companies in the Valley. And
so how did you hear about that? Because I had like 3 people tell me, you need to apply for this. You need to apply.
Yeah, so I got nominated, and I don't know by who.
Oh, cool.
Someone signed me up for it, which was great.
Did you have to write your little essay about stuff, or did you just collected?
I just got an email.
You just got an email that you won, huh? Come get your check.
Yeah, I got an email, and I was like, wow, is this real? I didn't think it was real. They're going to give me money.
Yeah.
And I don't have to do anything.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I got an email. Someone nominated me, but when I tell you, one of our mission statements is we support locals. We're for locals by locals, right?
Absolutely.
Like we support our community. So I have a good relationship with First Bank. Do as much as I possibly can for Acrisure, and I just promote local businesses, and we're really big in that because our direct competitors are Signature and Bright, two hedge fund ran companies that they claim to be local and they're not. They ship all their stuff out here from Orange County and all that.
It's the same thing with him and his payroll business, right?
Yep.
There's big box payroll
big box guys that outsource everything to India and call centers to India, and we're like the little engine that could. We're here locally. You can call and talk to people, and that's where we win. And I'm sure that's how you win too, is because you got that local feel.
Correct.
We can run stuff out to you that day. It's like your whole story. I need a tent tomorrow. Well, I can't do it, but you can do it, right? I mean, because we're in your community. We can go to the storage spot and pick it up and bring it tomorrow. Correct. So that's where you kind of beat the big box guys, right?
Do you ever get any? You're in what part of the city?
Yeah. No, they ask all. Yeah, they ask all the time. And especially, it's funny because most of our calls start with, "Where are you located?" And it's because they're not expecting us to say Cathedral City. They're not expecting us to say we're local. I live in La Quinta. They're not expecting that.
I'm saying, like, if you ever deliver to rough neighborhoods.
Oh.
You're like, where are you located?
Yeah, no, we don't. We deliver
mean-
everywhere. See, we're the party
Yeah, we
rental
don't
guys.
care.
We
That's
go.
right.
Yeah, we go. We
Yep.
go in the
You
neighborhood.
guys are taking stuff to DHS.
Okay.
You ain't scared.
Okay,
Right?
question.
We're going up that alley.
Okay, so you were saying that you have a photographer. What else is involved with the party guys?
Yeah, so cool.
My
Really
party.
good question. So we do everything. So we do tents, tables, chairs, flooring. We do dance floor stages, AV,
Wow.
lighting, porta
And then
potties.
People ask you, hey, do you have a DJ or do you have somebody that can make our table pretty? Like, do you do that?
Yeah, so now we're starting to do all that in house. We're launching our flatware side next month.
Oh my
We just
gosh.
partnered with a floral company, so we're doing fresh floral centerpieces.
Nice.
We're doing arches. We're doing photo booths now.
Oh my gosh.
We're doing all that stuff, and it's all in house. And
You're running this department.
correct, yeah. And
Yeah.
so it started that way. So within my brand, we have a mixology department, a bartending department also.
Oh yeah, you gotta have that.
Because I just kept getting asked, like, hey, do you recommend any bartenders? And I start, referring people, and
Sure.
I'm really cautious of that because I've been, customers have been done dirty, and same with me, where I decided, screw that. I know how to do this on my own, and so I went out and YouTubed it again, how to start a mobile bartending brand, and
Wow.
this, and so we launched, and we
So
did it.
I was just at this big thing in Cancun for my business, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a brand called, I want to say it's called Perlick, and it's a mobile bar. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's
So
really
like-
popular.
Yeah.
Really popular. I'm telling everybody, it was a shoe-in. We rent bars, right? We
Yeah.
do all these different things, and
Yeah.
so it's just now we supply the bartenders, servers, all that.
You have to
good
get your
stuff.
liquor's license to do all that, or
No, so
it's like
the way
a one-time
we
thing,
do is
right?
all the bartenders are licensed.
Ah,
and I have
gotcha.
that department ran by Jules. She runs that department for us. So
Okay.
she's in charge of that. She runs that, but licensed bartender herself. Everybody else is
There it
licensed
is.
as well.
That's all you
So the
need.
way you do it is, you have to supply the liquor. We bring all the garnishes,
I
fresh
got you,
juices,
gotcha.
all the stuff. We bring the bar. We pop it all up, ready to go.
So you're a
coolers,
one-stop
everything.
shop, man. Any event you guys can
Literally.
handle at this
Oh,
point,
Yeah.
huh?
Okay, so do you have any news to tell us? Because I know what we talked about when we were at the Firebirds game about some vino, a little bus, anything like that going on. or-
A little bus. Oh, the tour side.
Yeah.
The tour side of things.
Is that going on? Or
Yeah,
we
so we haven't launched that. It's funny you said that. I was like, how do you remember
you're all
that?
quiet.
Yeah, no, I was like, how do you remember that? Yeah. So we will be doing wine tours eventually.
Nice.
So just getting into the party bus game as well. Anything to
Wow.
do with events, I'm trying to have my hand in it.
Absolutely.
And I mean my hand in it, where I'm doing all this stuff in house. That's the hardest part, and what takes the most time is because I don't like to directly outsource things, right?
Oh,
I like
yeah.
to do it all. I want to
hear
own it all. I want to have it
Yep.
all to where we're not just saying for locals by locals. We mean what we say.
Sure.
And so so we're going to be doing wine tours here eventually, directly from Palm Springs to
Temecula.
wine country. Yeah,
Yeah.
the wine country. We're going out to Temecula and all that.
That's an easy
Yeah.
drive.
Yeah, so that's in the works, and but we're always launching so many different things because it's at that point where we're growing to the size where we just did the arts festival, we're doing the car show this month, we're doing all these large events now.
And you know what? Like in business, right? You start getting a reputation for being able to deliver, and of course, there's always gonna be things that go wrong, and absolutely, sometimes I just go, okay, I submit this job's just gonna go to shit. It just happens, but so how do you when that things go wrong, how do you kind of handle that?
Yeah, so when I was in the pest control industry, that was one of my superpowers was, I joke and say I've been through so much in life where nothing's gonna frazzle me. It's not gonna get me, off my rocker to where, there was a point where I was running a branch entirely by myself, no managers, no, customers all call, it was crazy.
You were the last
And
line of defense, huh?
literally the first and the last line at that point. You know what I mean? I was literally all of
Wow.
it. And I would
Okay.
get calls from our vice president and this, like, hey, how you doing? How you feeling? I'm like, I'm good. What do you mean? It's just because I'm a firm believer you can only do what you can do. And certain things are in your hands and out of your hands. And, unfortunately, having that kind of composed mindset that I have has really helped me in my career. So when stuff like that happens, it's unfortunate, but sometimes we have to just we can do what we can do, and we can't do what we can't do.
That's right.
I'm always going to go above and beyond. To this day, knock on wood, we don't have, I'm sure there's upset customers somewhere. That's in any business, especially as many customers as we service now.
Exactly.
But we try to go above and beyond for everyone. And we do more than try. We do it. But, you're always going to have those events and those customers that it's just, it's one of those things. But that's where utilizing local people and local companies, it's really hard for us not to be able to do something because everything's here. We don't have to, like I told you about our bigger competitors. Well, I got to bring it from San Diego. We got to bring it from LA. We got to, it's not that. It's a 20-minute drive back to the warehouse, right?
Yeah, so we'll go get it.
Correct. So we're able to make that happen. And, it's one of the skill sets that I've learned throughout my life, because when when you're constantly getting kicked out of places and this, and we're trying to figure it out, and we're trying to, to me, those are things to worry about when you're worrying about what you're going to eat.
Oh, yeah.
How are you going to eat tomorrow? What are we going to do? Well, we'll figure it out. So when a customer's upset because, you told them you're going to spray your house on Monday and you're there on Tuesday, it's like,
you're like, get out of here.
There could be a lot worse, there could be a lot worse.
Girl, sit down. I need to tell you
the
story.
Exactly. We're going to kill those bugs, right? So that's what we try to do. Yeah.
Well, I mean, your story is pretty amazing, man. So I think, just sitting here for you this hour, I mean, those of you out there that are listening to this, this guy is the definition of CV hustle. So we appreciate you coming in, man. I mean, everybody listening, if you think, I have a lot of things stacked against me where I can't do this, I can't open this business, I can't get this degree. I mean, just re-listen to Amos's story. I mean, he's one of the top business guys down here at a young age, and he's all self-made. I mean, he just had every excuse to give up and just never chose to take them, correct? Just you never chose to take them. So that should be a lesson to everybody listening. Hey, if Amos can do it with all the struggles and things he had to go through at a young age, anybody can do it if they just grind it out, and put their work in and find their passion and find their niche. Amos found his passion and his niche, and here he is today. I mean, very, very successful guys. So, you are the definition of CV hustle, and we appreciate you coming in, man, today.
Definitely.
And so where can our listeners kind of find you and kind of connect with you and find your businesses if they want to use your party rental or your pest control? Where can they reach out and find you?
Definitely. So, you could look us up on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Just type in My Party Rental Guys or Pest Protect 360. We're going to pop up. Or it's mypartyrentalguys.com and pestprotect360.com as well. Or just look up Amos Greenwood, follow me on Instagram, and I'll shoot it all to you also.
Okay, and Bobby's going to kill me. Have you ever been called Famous Amos?
Oh, all the time. All the time.
I got you again.
Thank you.
I'm sure she's never heard that one before. Never heard that one before, right?
This is so cool. That's funny.
I mean, the name is pretty synonymous with cooking.
Yeah.
But,
that's how I explain to people, because they always say, how do you pronounce it? And I say, it's like famous without the F. Like Famous Amos Cooking.
There it is. Perfect.
Well, on that note, if you found some value today in this story, the routine, like, subscribe, and share. And we'll see you next time on CV Hustle.
Be safe.